Now we can move to the discussion panel itself. So I would like to invite to the stage Dr. Krzysztof Korus to moderate this panel, and we are being joined online by our two panelists. So good morning, the stage is yours.
Can you hear me? Okay, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. My pleasure to be here. Thank you for having me. Thank you, my panelists, for joining. Hope that you had smooth process of joining. Let me take a sit somewhere where I can see you. Okay, fine. So my name is Krzysztof Korus. I'm founding partner of DLK Legal. We do lots of things around the payments, both on national and international level, representing international organizations or industry players. And in the panel we have two excellent guests, Katarzyna Hilliard Kobylińska from European Commission, DG FISMA, and we have Hendrik from the Deutsche Kreditbank. Can you hear me? Can you say hi to the audience?
Yes, hello.
Okay, fine. We have 30 minutes. The counter has started or has not started. Oh, it's somewhere out there. I will try to have a look at it instantly. So our intention is to discuss a bit within this 30 minutes and to agree on certain directions that the EC now has when working on the payments agenda. We know all that it's a very hot time for the European Commission. It's the new term. So in this coming 3 years, we will probably see lots of new stuff, not necessarily as hard as PSD2 or so, but still there's a lot of things to fine-tune, to trim. And the very important question is what's actually our priorities? So what's the diagnosis of the economy by the European Commission and how the economy responds to that? And therefore we have policy officer from the European Commission, and we have market, which is who is Hendrik here. Hendrik represents Deutsche Kreditbank, which is, if I'm not mistaken, one of the largest issuer of credit cards in Germany. It's a very specific bank, but still it's most important to us that they have lots of clients that experience in servicing payments. And now a few words from myself regarding how I understand the current environment of the EU payment. So, and why there is so much discussion about the strategy. So first, something what is most often repeated, that in Europe we have very specific situation. There's a lot of money, an awful lot of money in Europe to move, because we are quite abundant, affluent society in Europe that we purchase a lot, but still the trucks that move that money is not EU trucks. It's very often our trucks from outside the EU. So this is an important security and sovereignty issue, which is all in all repeated very often at various forums. So first, there is apparent need for sort of sovereignty in Europe. And then the second need is the need for sort of champions. Europe, I believe, still believes that we can be champions in financial world and specifically in payment. So the other interesting thing is that in all those use cases where we have no sovereignty, so where these non-EU trucks move our money, it's really important to note that mostly those money are moved between EU accounts. So if I pay by card, then actually I don't pay from a virtual account. It's an account in an EU bank. So the funds are moving between EU existing accounts, but there's a lot of overlay services over those accounts. So those trucks move money from EU account to other account. And for years we've tried to do something around it. So what was the response from the EU as a whole? So first we had the interchange regulation, because cards is mostly targeted and focused in discussions like this. The one single goal was transparency, because so far this is the only instrument that have been applied. So more transparency. Then we have the PSD2. The PSD2 mostly strengthens and enforces again the accounts, because if we look outside of those consumer protection stuff like €50 protection and so on, we have the AISP, PIS services which try to unlock the power of accounts. And then the latest trend is the instant payments. The instant payments are nothing new. In Poland, enjoy instant payments. We have been enjoying for years now. It's a very important trend also on the EU level. It's important to note that in instance, we have already in Europe over 2,000 PSP. European Payments Council claims that it is now over 50% of European PSP that use and offer the instant payment. But interestingly, there's only one PSP from Poland. One PSP participates in the SEPA instant payment, and it is actually not a bank, it's a currency one, so which is a authorized payment institution in Poland. So this is the general environment within which I would like my renowned and esteemed panelists to ask some very important questions. So first question to you, Kasia. So apparently the EU, represented by European Commission, has decided to invest a lot in instant payments. This is a bit outside Poland, the best example and the best evidence that there's only one PSP from Poland, although we are very interested in instant payments locally here in the local market. So could you just explain us in most available brief words why it is instant payments, what or why at all you have decided to invest in anything, what is it, why instant payment, how are you going to invest? And what is the KPI? So what you consider success or failure of the investment you apparently make in instant payments? And the second question I will immediately have, or you may include it in your answer, is whether it's rather offensive strategy, because you believe in the European Commission that there's lots of potential in the credit transfer, so in money moving between directly the accounts, or it is this defensive strategy. It's rather against something, against a threat, or to protect us against a threat which we do not realize. So that would be the first question.
Dear Katarzyna, if you could kindly switch on your microphone, because we sadly cannot hear you, and we check it on our side that we are connected, so it might be switched off on your side.
Okay, Katarzyna can't hear us, or can you hear us? Can you not? Okay, you can hear us, but we can't hear you. Okay, so...
Katarzyna, please kindly reconnect.
Okay, so perhaps you try to reconnect, and I will ask now the question to Hendrik. So actually the idea was that first Kasia gives us the picture of why, what, how, and KPIs, and you Hendrik, would comment on it. But you know perfectly the discussion, why, how it began with instant payments. So can you elaborate whether you confirm that the diagnosis that sits behind the current actions of the EU, and to make it a bit more picturesque. So what do you think, what we are missing today? So what is the thing that we don't have in Europe which requires the Commission to take action? So feel free to take double the time.
Okay, well, let's hope that Katarzyna can join us in a minute. Because I don't want to be speaking for the Commission and its diagnosis, of course, but maybe what I just add is that next to my role at Deutsche Kreditbank, I'm also on the board of Payments Europe, which is an association representing the card-based payments industry in Brussels. And so, you know, from that point of view, I think that what we get a feeling is that this sovereignty issue and improving the role of the euro in the world is quite at the forefront of the Commission's agenda. Now, you mentioned this idea of trucks, sort of transporting it between European banks, but that these trucks aren't necessarily European. I mean, I think we would say that that's not exactly true. Yes, it's true that they are Visa and MasterCard are by a wide margin the largest schemes. But of course, we also have 9 domestic schemes in Europe. And we also see other players that are entering, especially in the e-commerce market. I mean, if you think about PayPal or Klarna, I think this morning I read that Klarna had a valuation of 11 billion after an investment. So I think what we're seeing is that there's a lot of change in the European payments market in general. But I see that Katarzyna has joined us, so maybe she wants to say something about what the Commission's plans are.
Well, I hope so, if you can hear me.
Yes, now it's perfect.
Okay, fantastic. Okay, thank you. Should I go back to the question that you asked me?
Yes, please.
Okay. So, well, first of all, thank you very much for having me here. I think you have been asking quite pertinent questions. I can definitely subscribe to the first argument or first points that you've raised about the fact that we have non-EU trucks that are moving EU money. I mean, this is not something new. This has been already mentioned by the European Commission President years ago, that we have to strengthen the international role of the euro. And so one of the ways to do that is to have a little bit more autonomy in terms of payments in the EU. And we are now talking about what we call as open strategic autonomy. We don't want to, build walls, in Europe. This is not the objective. The objective is to have a little bit more control over payments in the EU and have a little bit more strong European players alongside the international players. This partly then will answer also your question, is it a campaign against something? We are not against something. There's no crusade against cards. There's no crusade against cash. There's no crusade against big techs, no crusade against, international card schemes. The only thing that the Commission wants to do is to have more choice for the end users, and to have a little bit more autonomy. It is very telling that payments that are from one European payer to another European payee are often processed outside of the EU, are often performed by players that are outside of the EU, and so on. I have to also say something about the instant payments, why instant payments, how much the Commission is willing to invest, and so on. The Commission is not investing anything. The Commission is, again, trying to facilitate the development of new solutions and solutions that are European. The European Central Bank has prepared a lot of ground to make sure that instant payments, cross-border instant payments, can be a success. We hear that argument very often from national communities. Oh, but we've had instant payments for years now. It's fine. It works fine. We are very successful. It's nothing new. Okay, but now try to take your instant payment solution, Bleak from Poland, and go to Portugal. Then the problem arises, and you cannot compete in this global world if your solution works only in your national market. And this is what we are trying to facilitate. Not fund, not sponsor, but really to facilitate, to remove as policymakers the barriers that the market is telling us exist, that we have control of as policymakers. And we are trying to remove those barriers. Then, it's up to the market to come up with those solutions, to embrace those solutions and facilitations that we provide. And we know that the market is responding. We have quite, promising initiatives out there right now from the European players, and we will support them. We support them, and we will continue to support them. And those ones, and any new ones that will come along, that will try to do exactly that, to build solutions delivered by European players that would work cross-border, whether they're based on instant payments, on cards, or any other, direct debits, you name it. As long as it offers solutions that are satisfactory for the users, so they have to work everywhere.
Okay, so Hendrik, coming back to the initial question, do you agree, or do you think that the industry agrees with this diagnosis and the goal and the KPIs? So what's your take?
Yeah, I think, well, when I started my answer earlier, I think we don't completely agree with this diagnosis, in that we see that there's a huge amount of competition in the payment market already, and that some of these companies are clearly European. I mean, we're a European company. We're very strongly involved in payments. And, obviously we don't see that there's a huge problem there. I think this problem for new competitors is sort of that they need to create a service that's just as good as what we already have. So at the very minimum, it needs to be very safe and secure, and it needs to be convenient, and that's what cards provide today, obviously. And that's why I think most people like using cards to pay. And I think we're seeing this especially now during the COVID crisis, that cards are quite an innovative payment method as well. I mean, contactless was of course pioneered by that, and also mobile payments have been taking off quite strongly in a number of markets because of the innovative work that's been done in that. So I don't think we see exactly the same problem, but at the same time, we welcome any competition that is there. And we offer a variety of payments products as a bank. We offer SEPA credit transfers, we offer Visa and MasterCard cards, we offer cards from Girocard, which is the German domestic scheme. So we offer a wide variety of payment methods, depending also on what consumers want. And I think that's at the end what we need to focus on, is what consumers want and what businesses want. And
in the same way, all payments within the EU. But if you look at specifically at the legislation and provisions on the disclosure of exchange rates, it's very easy for the Eurozone to apply. But for the non-Eurozone issuers, it's really a great panic. So how about taking into account the non-Eurozone? Can you honestly say that it's really for all, or against something for the Eurozone only?
I'm sorry, this is Katarzyna. I assume this question was for me, but I actually lost connection. I only heard the last few words from your side, so sorry about that. But if this is directed at me, could you repeat the question, please?
Yes, actually, I can see now, Hendrik, can you hear me? Okay, so may we consider your response as finalized and jump to another question? Because you have broken in the middle of your response. So let's consider
I assumed
your
that there was a problem, but
thank you very much. And actually, if you are again with us, so I would like to come back to the initial agenda, so question sequence, and to ask you before Katarzyna answer. Now that we know the diagnosis, the very high level direction, can you share with us what's your perception? If we implemented in the EU very correctly and very proudly the pan-European instant payments, what changes? So what is the most visible result? So what we get that we don't get today? I'm still coming back to these questions because I would like that, I wish that it's voiced very clearly. What's the stake of this game? What we are chasing for?
Well, I think, and I hope you can hear me now and it won't break up, but I think it won't change that much. And I think that's what a good payment system needs to deliver, is that it's not something that it's not a service that you come to enjoy because of itself. It's a service that you use because you want to buy something, and that's what's going to give you enjoyment. So, if we have a good payment system, the best thing about it is if people really don't even notice that it's happening, and that it's very safe and convenient. So I think at the end of the day, if instant payments are the solution that is chosen by the industry as a way forward, then that could be really successful. But at the same time, I think that already today, it's not like customers are struggling to pay for their goods. I mean, you know, with a debit card or a credit card, you can pretty much go around the whole of Europe or even the world and buy whatever you want to buy. So I think, you know, if we want to get to that level, it's going to be quite a challenge from a technical point of view, and there's going to need to be a lot of investments if you want to make an instant payment system that is as good as what's already there.
Okay, so having that in mind, Katarzyna, again, coming back to the initial question sequence, if assuming that the industry is at least half skeptical about it, and they will not run for instant payment, what's your far goal? So how are you ready to help it? Just to give an example, back in 2012, or even earlier, a bit earlier, there was SEPA setting up. And SEPA was supposed to be self-regulation. It kept working to be only self-regulations. But without the support of PSD1, it wasn't feasible to make it a pan-European success. So same can be about the instant payment. So what's your hidden plan? So again, another example. In Poland, we have instant payments. It just works because the people want that it works. I think no one in the government now works on instant payments. It's purely business issue. So how are you going to help the instant payments, assuming that you consider it's the best way forward, or any other of those instruments that provide sovereignty to Europe? So kind of regulation, kind of money investments. I know that's impossible, but can you shed some light on it?
Yeah, thank you very much. And I will allow myself also to partly respond to the previous question as well, if I may take that liberty, because I think it's a very crucial question that, you know, what's in it for you? What's in it for the businesses in Poland or in any other country in the EU to bet on, you know, working together on new solutions, whether they're based on instant payments or not? Well, you know, what we would like to see, I'm a little bit confused about how this discussion is going, because we have obviously initiatives of the European banks, the European Payments Initiative, announced with a big bang, and big German banks are part of this initiative, to develop a new European card and a solution based on instant payments together under the same brand. What we have also is a very strong cooperation of end-user solutions, which are either based on instant payments or other digital solutions, mobile payments, that are working together to achieve exactly that, the interoperability with those solutions across borders. So we have, you know, Polish players around the table as well, who see that if they want to scale up, if they want to offer the possibility for their users to also use their solutions when they travel abroad, they have to cooperate with other similar solutions in other countries. I think in this global world, you really can no longer say, well, it works in Poland, it works in, you know, Czech Republic, it works in Belgium, so, you know, that's fine. I think, you know, businesses have to think big. And yes, we have Visa, MasterCard, but, you know, I mean, in the current political climate, do we really want to bet all our cards on two that sometimes are speaking as one, you know, providers for all payments in the EU? Is this really, you know, a competitive environment where we have, you know, a huge dominance of one or two players? You know, as responsible policymakers, this is not something that, you know, we would be happy with. We have nothing against Visa and MasterCard. I mean, I have, you know, at least one of those cards in my wallet, and we all have, and this is a perfect, you know, solution. But what we want is for the users to have more options. I also don't agree with the statement that, you know, users are happy and users will tell us what they want. I mean, let's be honest. Me as a person, as an individual, I will not, you know, go to my providers and tell them what they want. I mean, yes, I can say it in my complaint if I'm not happy, but, you know, I don't have that leverage as an end user. When we have discussions with the merchants, however, well, that's a very different discussion. We do hear that, well, we would want to have some leverage when we're negotiating with the providers. We would like to have a wider array of providers to choose from. We don't want to rely always on the same providers.
So can we, is it legitimate to conclude that actually the intention of the European Commission is to make the domestic instant scheme interoperable instead of figuring out something new for Europe? Because this is how I have understood from at least my perspective. This is the low-hanging fruit, the quick win we can have. So is it, would that be legitimate to conclude?
I think it's what is very confusing is when we are talking about instant payments, because instant payments can mean many different things. I mean, what we always talk about is three main layers. We have the infrastructure, so the infrastructure which allows you to settle payments. And of course, and there you started asking a question about the difference between Eurozone and non-Euro countries. We have pan-European settlement solutions for instant payments, for Euro payments, TIPS, which is also now allowing also for settling of instant payments in Swedish krona, for example. But I understand that there is a specific situation for non-Euro payments, and we have to, from the Commission's point of view, is further down the line, we would like to achieve that there are pan-European settlement solutions for Euro and cross-currency payments, so that the instant payments, cross-currency instant payments are, possible. So that's this. But at the infrastructure layer already, a lot has been done, at least for the Euro zone. We have now the final sort of works done by the Euro system. Then you have another layer. Then you have the scheme layer. Again, we have a SEPA scheme for instant credit transfers. It is now voluntary, and we do see progress being made in terms of adherence of the PSPs to the scheme, but it's not enough. The progress is very slow. And you asked, well, will the Commission, legislate or not? I do not exclude that we would consider that if the adherence levels are not satisfactory, because without obviously adherence to the scheme, nothing else will work. And then you have the third layer. You have the end user solutions. And here, this is the area which is obviously down to the market. And yes, it's down to the market to say, it will either be a plain vanilla instant credit transfer, which may not be so attractive, or it can be an instant credit transfer based product, but obviously with a lot of perks. I mean, the perks of refunds or any insurances or payment guarantees do not necessarily have to be reserved for card products. They can be also offered with instant credit transfers based products or any other products. And here,
okay, so
we are open. Let me just finish this one thought. We are open to the national solutions coming interoperable, or any provider coming up with solutions for pan-European solutions. Here we are completely agnostic. It's down to the market.
Okay, you were referring very very often to cards, and Fredrik, once again the question to you. So we are just about we are on the fringes of new model or new approach for the interchange regulation, or scheme regulation actually, because now it's more scheme regulation than on the interchange regulation. So from the 5 years perspective, if you were asked to summarize the interchange regulation in one sentence, what is the most visible result after 5 years of interchange regulation?
Well, of course, one of the most visible results is that issuers have suffered quite a lot of losses in terms of card business, just because, of course, the rates went down significantly. I think it's, I listened to the Konstantin's report, a way to discuss the report just before our panel. And, I think it's very hard to say that there's one specific thing like the interchange that has completely changed the European payments market. There are many things that have happened, and I think that's why it's always very difficult also to regulate it, because in 5 years' time, not only have the interchange fees gone down, but you've had new players emerge that are quite strong, especially in the e-commerce sector. You've had consumers really change their behavior. A lot of people choosing cards over cash, and obviously that's a trend that's continuing. But there are just so many factors that are playing into this that I think if you regulate it, and I think that's why the Commission made the right decision here, to say, at this stage, it doesn't make sense to do any further regulation of the four-party card schemes, or that, they will take some more time to analyze if there's any need for that. But, of course, one part of the interchange has been also that merchants have benefited. But, where we remain very, very skeptical is whether this has been beneficial to consumers in any way. I think rather what we have seen is that issuers have had to compensate for their losses, and that's meant that credit cards and accounts have gotten more expensive. And at the same time, I think, if you go to the supermarket to buy, milk or whatever, the interchange fee level is probably not what determines that price. It's a lot of other factors that are coming into that. So it's very hard to say. And I think, the Commission also acknowledged that it was only a theoretical savings for consumers from the interchange fee regulation. So, it was a big experiment, and I guess, in parts it's been maybe a good result, but in many ways it's also been very detrimental, especially to issuers, and doubtful whether it's been good for consumers.
Hendrik, and again, we are running out of time. One quick question and perhaps possible one quick answer. You're most likely cleaning your suit before the December conference with DG.com public hearing. So what's the main message that the card industry is going to bring to the public hearing on 7th of December?
Maintain the level playing field. I think that's what our main message is that, we welcome any competition in this market. We also welcome the Commission supporting instant payments or supporting the emergence of new players. But what's really important is that everybody is treated fairly, so that you don't have price regulation only for one part of the payments industry and not for others, for example.
Okay, thank you very much then. Thank you for the audience here. Thank you for the panelists. What I have noted from our conversation is primarily two things. So first is that instant is the idea for Europe to regain sovereignty or perhaps even become sort of champion, but it's not necessarily the instant payments. It was very well highlighted by Katarzyna. It may be anything else, but under the condition that it is European. And the second thing that I note both from the conversation here, but also from the more general relations in the market, is that the card industry brings to the December 7th the message that let's make hands off, no further regulation. But it's important to note that the card industry doesn't propose withdrawal of anything, so that they don't object the current regulation. This is more or less agreed that it's all right. Just don't regulate anymore. So thank you very much again, Kasia and Hendrik. Thank you very much for the attention and wish you good conference in the afternoon.
Dziękujemy bardzo serdecznie, dziękujemy za moderację tego panelu.